think we should shut the wall, yeah. Yep,
Do you have one of those?
I do.
I can.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hope, look at the highest bidder.
So I'm talking about all these points, right?
Yeah, I would just kind of talk on them. Yep. It all tells the story.
She can go back in.
Actually, we did that upstairs. We're good.
Let me just make sure the streaming is going and we're good.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. So before we get started with the public comments, we have a few comments that we'd like to make on our side up here first, just so that everybody's informed of what is exactly is going on as we see it. So the Palmer Farm is a prized Homedale acquisition. It was acquired by the township in 2000, and the owners at the time were provided with a 25-year lease back. That lease is expiring on June 30th. We've tried to address this in private. I met with Pat over at his farm back in March. We're not sure why, but then we received the letter from the attorney, and it copied in Mr. Prakash Santana. So we basically have to do all of this in public here. So our intent has always been to continue the use of farming for the property. Mr. De Palma was advised that a new lease would be needed and that we would need to bid that out as is required practice. It's been, unfortunately, a complete fabrication claiming that we were looking to develop the property. There has never been and will not be any development on the property. We are going to assure you of that. Our attorney, Michael, will address the legal issues, and then we'll come back for a few other comments. Then we're going to open up the floor. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. As you outlined, the De Palma farm property is owned by the township. It was subject to a 25-year lease back that the township acquired it subject to. That lease does expire at the end of this month. Under the New Jersey Local Lands and Buildings Law, the lease of real property owned by a municipality to a private party is subject to bidding. And our courts have interpreted the bidding statutes as applying for the benefit of the taxpayers as they guard against favoritism, improvidence, extravagance, corruption, and it secures for the public the benefits of unfettered competition. You see at every township committee meeting the local lands and buildings law, if not the local public contracts law, and bidding is required of all sorts of things, whether it's procuring a contract for a road job to leasing out a property. This is a common practice, but unfortunately it has somehow become complicated in this particular instance. The De Palma Farms Council has raised the potential applicability of a purported exception in the local lands and buildings law. This has been reviewed by the township numerous times and just recently in our executive session that we had earlier, and the township maintains that the statute does not apply to this particular instance. It is a 2006 statute of the legislature that was adopted after the subject leaseback and purchase transaction went forward in 2000, and it states that when a municipality acquires real property, present tense, acquires real property, and there's a lease immediately prior to that, that the township, if it finds that the, quote, temporary continuous, end quote, of the private use would not compromise the public use, it can then negotiate a lease without being subject to public bidding. The lease back that occurred 25 years ago essentially followed the practice that was later codified by the legislature. With the statute saying that when a municipality acquires real property, in the present tense, the township does not interpret this statute as then extending a bidding exception to a leaseback after the 25 years have passed. And if you take that argument to its logical end, it would essentially mean that any time a party sells property to a New Jersey municipality that's subject to a leaseback, this statute then allows the municipality to extend no-bid leases to that entity into perpetuity. And in my interpretation, that is clearly not the intent of the legislature. It's to allow the temporary continuance when a municipality is acquiring property. The De Palma attorney has explained that the property owners are seeking a 5 to 7 year lease at a continued rate of $500 per month. The Township Committee has reviewed that and does not believe that those terms are temporary in nature, as is intended by that statute, even if it were to apply. Furthermore, the De Palma folks have argued that the property is not Green Acres preserved or listed on the Rossi. We have reviewed that, and there is a discrepancy based upon the deeds that have been recorded. In 2001, there was a deed recorded against the property from the township to the township that subjected certain property to the Green Acres program restrictions. The block and lots that are listed include the subject farm, but the attached property description does not. So I think it's fair to say that there is a discrepancy whether or not the property is in fact Green Acres encumbered. But that, for our purposes here today, is really a distinction without a difference. Based upon a lot of the public comments that were made about the potential for development of the parcel, as the mayor outlined earlier, today's Township Committee agenda contains 2 action items that the committee is going to take in order to determine the best way to ensure the property is preserved, whether it's by formal listing on the Rossi or by deed restriction, consistent with their intent that the property not be developed in any way. So that's the legal background on the issues that we've been facing and attempted to deal with privately, but obviously they're now in the public forum, so we're happy to discuss them here. I'm going to turn it back over to the mayor to provide some more details on the financials and other considerations that inform the committee on this.
Thank you, Michael. So the farm was purchased for $4.3 million on June 28th, 2000, subject to a 25-year leaseback. That's roughly $8.1 million adjusted for inflation. The lease term was for $1,000 per month or $12,000 per year. The lease also afforded Homedale the option to impose a CPI increases that past township councils did not exercise, nor did we. The former town council gave a COVID waiver and made the rent $500 per month. De Palma is currently leasing 50 acres for $500 a month, which expires the end of this month. The township in 2023, well, we approved it in 23. In 24, we installed a deer fence surrounding the property for about $200,000, recognizing that it would improve the township's property and that the lease was expiring and that it would be a benefit for future farmers and the current farmer as well. The township cannot legally extend the lease on a no-bid basis. Even if we could, doing so would harm our taxpayers. Extension as requested would mean the township may lose money, which would leave taxpayers to subsidize a private farm operations that was given favoritism. Township has no issue with Mr. De Palma and has honored the lease for all 25 years with them. They are welcome to bid, and if they win, Township looks forward to continuing with them as their landlord. The Township Committee is committed to following the law and protecting taxpayers regardless of misinformation and pressure. Before we open to the public, would anybody else like to make any comments?
I just want to clarify one point, Mike, as in your capacity as our counsel for the township, we are it is your legal opinion, your expert legal opinion, that we are required by state law to bid this property out. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I'm happy to provide the citations, but the local lands and buildings law makes very clear that there is a broad bidding requirement to lease township-owned property to a private party. As the farm owner's attorney has mentioned, there is an exception. My interpretation of that exception is that it applies when a property is acquired for farmland purposes, and that it wouldn't have applicability 25 years later, and to interpret it otherwise would entirely frustrate the bidding scheme that the legislature has put forward to prevent against the favoritism that the mayor set forth. So, the township, if it had the discretion, it might choose to exercise it. It is my position that it doesn't have that discretion and that bidding isn't warranted.
Otherwise, they would have had to have been grandfathered into that law. Is that what the interpretation is effectively, or is it?
The law did not exist at the time that the leaseback occurred in 2000, but I think it's fair to say that the practice that occurred is consistent with the way the statute is intended to operate, which is if a municipality goes to acquire a property and there's a current farm tenant, working out an extension with that farm tenant, if the temporary operations would not interfere with the town, that's what the legislature evinced in putting that statute on the books. But to interpret it otherwise in this present tense would mean that, as I said earlier, anytime someone sells property to the town could then give them no bid leases into perpetuity. I just don't see it that way.
So we're required by state law. We can't play political favoritism, as has happened with previous township committees and their leadership. And as we've said all along, as the evidence exhibits for us, this committee is committed to preventing as much development in Homedale as possible, and that would be consistent with what we would do here as well.
Michael, in regard to a bid process, when would that occur? How would it work? What is that something that begins immediately? If you can give me a little guidance on that.
Sure. So our purchasing agent here in Township Hall has drafted a bid document for the lease of the property, entirely consistent with the current lease in terms of what it would allow for. And we've bid out other farm properties in town, including the one that's the F&F property, as well as the sod farm down at Cross Farm. So this is not an unusual practice for us. So as discussed in executive session, the committee will be considering a motion as well to direct the issuance of such an RFP and establishing a minimum bid as required by the local lands and buildings law. With that authorization, I'll work with your township administrator. We'll have the bid issued and properly noticed. Any interested parties, including the current tenants, would certainly have the right to bid on that, and we'll just follow the state law process on procurement, and the committee can award at a future meeting.
And how soon can that happen?
Logistically, we'll have to work on the bid, which I think is pretty much ready to go. So that's usually a minimum 10-day process following public notice, and then the new lease would have to be authorized by ordinance. So I think we're looking at perhaps a couple of meetings to get that approved.
Okay, but it's something that can happen sooner instead of later.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been intent on following that process as we've advised the property owner.
Okay, and can we,
Pardon me, the property tenant.
if we wanted to, can we take steps today to, I guess, have it put out to bid? Can we make a motion for it
That-
to go out to bid?
precisely,
and
that-
set
That's absolutely. So we'll set that forth. It'll be a third action item following the prior two regarding the Green Acres and Rossi considerations.
Okay, no further comments from the dais. We're going to take any public comments. Chris, if you could, thank you. We usually raise our hands and we get called just so that we kind of make sure that we're calling up the right people. If you can give us 1 second there, please. Who would like to speak? We'll get to you next, Pat. Come on up, please.
Sarah Beiser from the law firm of Fox Rothschild, the New York office. I represent Patrick DePalma. I first note that Mr. Collins has used the word purported.
It's on.
Is it on? Okay. Mr. Collins has used the word purported. That's an unusual word to use with regard to a statute. The statute he's referring to is NJSA 40A 12-14.1. It is not purported. It is, in fact, a state statute. I noticed that during my conversations with Mr. Collins, and right now, he has not cited any case law to defend his position. It's his position, but he hasn't cited case law, and that's not how we lawyers operate. Without case law, it's very nice that anyone on this committee or Mr. Collins can state whatever he wants, but in fact, there's no case law. So as I told Mr. Collins, we're prepared to bring an action before the courts in Monmouth County to have them decide this issue, and the appellate division if necessary. Because as a lawyer, I'm not prepared to listen to simply what another lawyer says about a particular statute. That's not how we operate. Second, Mr. Collins states that temporary of 5 years would sort of contravene the intent of the statute. Well, with regard to a 25-year lease that's already in effect, I think 5 to 7 years is in fact temporary. Third, Third, I think his interpretation is just not correct, because this statute would have had no meaning at the time that the initial lease was entered into and when the township purchased the property a couple days later. And Mr. Collins did not actually talk about the dates, but the lease was in effect before the township purchased the property, which is one of the reasons I think that this statute, which did come into effect 6 years later, is exactly on point. There would have been no need for this statute if it had been enacted in 2000 or in 1995. We didn't need this statute to address the circumstance that happened, because in fact the township took over the property subject to a lease. At that point, this statute wouldn't have been necessary. And to me, the statute only has meaning if there's a lease already in effect and there's some time afterwards that the township purchased property, which is in fact what happened. Next, we know that there's actually farmers in town that are not making any lease payments. And so I think $500, it was $1,000, then it was $500. I think that what's being leased is 100 acres. Is that correct? But we're asking only for 60 acres. And it is 60 acres presently that is not encumbered. It's an odd thing to talk about discrepancies, because at the end of the day, 60 acres is not encumbered by green acres. And that means 60 acres can be redeveloped in any manner that the township wants, because right now, that's the condition of what's going on. 40 acres is encumbered by green acres, 60 acres is not. I think there are many residents in town who believe that 5 to 7 years is not unreasonable, given that this family has owned the property for 100 years. They sold it at a price in 2000 that was much, much below the market price if they had sold it to, no, Mr. Collins, I don't know why you're making a face.
Respectfully, I don't see how that's material to, as the legal counsel, I thought that we would be addressing the legal issues, but if we're going to address the public-facing issues, we could do that as well. But I would like an opportunity to respond to a lot of the things that you've mentioned, and I think the commenter's out of time anyway, so if I could.
We'll allow you to continue, please.
Well, I'm,
No, please continue.
well, right now I want to hear what Mr. Collins,
We're going to let you finish, and then we'll get to that, please.
okay. They accepted a payment of about $4 million 25 years ago in exchange for $1,000. They were paying $1,000. And then it was reduced to $500. It's my understanding that it wasn't a COVID reduction. But I think it was more in line with what other farmers were paying. And some farmers in town are paying nothing. They are rent-free, as I understand it, for the land that they're leasing back from the township. So I believe that the statute is not a purported statute, that it's in fact a statute. I've actually never heard of any lawyer call a statute a purported statute. And we're prepared to go to court to get a declaratory judgment and to find out what the courts, not what Mr. Collins, thinks about the statute.
Thank you very much. I'm not aware of any farms that are not paying anything. Certainly no leases happened while this committee was sitting here, though. Michael, would you care to respond, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. One, I'm certainly happy to look at the comments earlier, but a statute speaks for itself, so I don't think there's any issue there. In terms of case law, I'm sure Ms. Beiser would look at case law and I would interpret any case law. There isn't any particular case law on this statute. That does not mean that an attorney doesn't have the opportunity to interpret the statute, and in fact that becomes the attorney's obligation based upon the plain words of it, following the canons of statutory interpretation or whatever other legal guidance there is out there. In terms of a declaratory judgment, you're certainly welcome to file one, but I don't think it'll be successful. Reason being, in order to file a declaratory judgment action, you need to have standing and adverseness to the party in which you're seeking interpretation of something. In this instance, the Township Committee's made it clear that it believes that it's appropriate for the bidding process to proceed, and that the public policy favors that in order to not award a no-bid contract on a favoritism basis. So following that, I don't think the Superior Court's going to find there's any jurisdiction for you to have that interpretation, because you're asking the court to interpret a statute to provide an extension that the committee is saying that it's not intending to provide because of the bidding consideration. The fact that the lease was in effect before the acquisition, I'm aware of that, and the reason for that is because the township was clearly working with the property owners in order to get around this exact bidding exception. The legislature may have seen fit years later to create a statute that would have allowed the process and basically made it a condition of closing or subsequent to closing, but that doesn't change the fact that what occurred is consonant with the statute, and I certainly don't think it creates an opportunity for 20 years later to then have a bidding exception. So I don't agree with any argument that our interpretation eviscerates any meaning of the statute. And lastly, in terms of the COVID consideration, I do believe that the tenants requested a reduction in rent during the COVID period, and there is a resolution in the municipal clerk's office of this township committee that agreed to lower the rent, again, out of consideration for the farm owner or farm tenant because of the pandemic issues, so that is accurate.
Thank you, Michael. Patrick, did you have some comments? No? You're going to pass? Anybody else? Please. I'm sorry? I didn't see you raise your hand, Pat. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. That's also Patrick. He had his hand up before.
Oh, okay.
So, didn't want...
All right, I am the son of the owner of the farm.
Excuse me, just your name and address for the record.
Patrick DePalma, 32 Centerville Road, Homedale, New Jersey. I am the son of the owner of the farm. Right. I know everything when it was purchased by the town, what happened and all. This could have went to a builder, all right? Our family did the right thing by giving it to the town. We did not have to give it to the town, all right? With the other committee 25 years ago, it was said to us that we could extend our lease when the lease was up. I know you don't know anything about it, but it was a shaking of a hand, and they told us it could have been done, all right? I don't know why that this committee isn't honoring that. And as far as the fence, I helped your committee, not this committee, 5 years, told them how to do it, state money, this, and dropped the ball, all right? It's not my fault that you spent $200,000 when you could have spent $50,000, all right? And it isn't fair that your farm, F&F, had a fence that you bought it with, all right? And I had zero. I had zero revenue for 6 years on a 100-acre farm that I couldn't do zero with because the deer ate me out of house and home, all right? And it's all documented with Rutgers Cooperative Extension, all right? That's why the rent was deducted or lowered. So I don't want to hear that you have no clue of what happened 20 years ago, all right? I know what happened. My family knows what happened, all right? And out of respect for my family that's been in this town over 100 years, all right, I don't think that we are asking for much as a 5-year extension just for what I have lost in 6 years with that farm being devastated by the deer that ain't even my deer. They're the town's deers or the state's deers, all right? Just that, I should be able to get my farm back for 5 years just to make up the money I lost. If I didn't have my greenhouse business, I would be out of business. So in that respect, and all these laws and this, all right, if this happened 20 years ago with the other committees and this wouldn't be happening because the town was a farming town, all right? Everybody knew each other. This wouldn't have got this far, all right? This would have been said 5 years, oh, no problem. And it would again, and the 5 years would have been up, would have been gone. So I don't know who don't like me in this town. I don't know. Again, rumors. All right?
Pat, you know I personally came and sat with you for an hour, Pat. So you know there's no bias from me here.
Again, I could tell you, and I have many friends in this township, all right? They've been soliciting my farm for a year already, all right?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, you're not aware, but I am, all right? And again, I know the town has been going to different people and asking people, all right? And that's not right. So
Thank you.
I again, alls I want is to, and I'm willing to negotiate with the township, all right? Nobody from this committee has come to me. No meetings, I asked for a meeting with you, and it was a 10-minute meeting that.
It was not 10 minutes.
Yes, it was.
Pat, continue making your points, and then we need to move along to
Yes,
other
I know,
comments.
but nobody has reached out to me. I gave you a letter stating I wanted to extend my lease. That's as far as it got. Your attorney wrote me a letter back. That's as far as it got. Nobody's reached out. Nobody has communicated with me. Is that right? Nobody's even wrote a letter to me if I wanted to extend.
Complete?
No, you didn't.
No, I said, are you complete?
Yes, again, I'm in disbelief of what's happening for a lifetime farm that's been in Homedale Township and is trying to stay there. And well, another thing, I do all the township schools with the flowers, pumpkins, and all the sustainability of all the people who buy our flowers and our produce right around this community. And you're taking my livelihood away. How would you feel if this was you standing here? What would you do?
I'll respond when you're done, Pat.
I'm done.
All right, thank you. So, in response, Pat, the majority of what you just mentioned predates every single person that's up here. You talk about a handshake. I'm sorry, but what we have are the documents, what you were paid, what you guys agreed, and that's what we have to go by. We sat up here and took an oath to uphold the laws of this state. That's all we're doing. There is nothing personal going on here. There's nothing political. Unfortunately, it was dragged into the political arena here, and that's unfortunate, I think, for you. We have to do what is right for the town, and that's why we're at this position. Did you want to say some things, Kim?
I have one more thing to say.
Hold on, you're going to let us respond first, please, Pat.
Yeah.
One more thing and then I'm done.
Sure. I was, Mayor, I was actually going to say exactly what you said. And you folks heard the oath that the police officers took when they accepted their promotions today. We took an oath when we accepted our positions on this township committee to act fairly, impartially, and for the best of Homedale Township. It doesn't mean favoring a particular individual. It doesn't mean favoring a particular company. Impartially. We have a 25-year lease, not ownership of the property. Homedale owns the property. Again, we weren't part of this 25 years ago. Homedale purchased the property at what was presumed fair market value. It's been used as farmland. We want nothing more. I'm going to speak for myself, want nothing more than for that to be continued. As a representative of this committee, what do I do? Do I ignore the fact that there is a lease without an extension provision? Or do I do what's supposed to be done according to the statutes in front of us and open it for bid? It doesn't mean that De Palma cannot continue operating there. It means that we up here, whether we like it or not, have an obligation to do what the law requires us to do. And the fact that we're not sitting here arguing case law, this is not a courtroom. This isn't a time for oral argument in front of a judge. But if, the De Palmas, you have every right to bring it to a court, but no one has said it's not going to work out the way the De Palmas would like it to work out. So before we even jump to the conclusion that it's not working out, maybe we do it according to what is supposed to be done and take it from there. Again, and it goes back to the basics, the oath that the five of us took in representing the township.
And if I could just emphasize what the deputy mayor just said, and the mayor said earlier, if this goes out to bid, the township invites the current tenant to bid on the the request for bids, and if they prevail, I would assume that this entire conversation's a moot point. So I think that's
I got
worth
something to
noting.
rebut on that.
Okay.
All right, and as far as all these other farmers, all right, and I'm gonna go. And I
Pat,
know
we're
this
not,
for
we're
a
not
fact.
discussing the other farmers.
No,
This
no,
is
I didn't-
specifically the
it-
De
it-
Palma
it's
property.
For this, all right? F&F Nursery, when, 3 years after they bought our farm, all right? Our farm was the first one. Nobody knew about any kind of contracts. Nobody knew, and it was a 2-week deal that had to be done really quick because our family was being fined, all right? So that's why a lot of this stuff wasn't in the contracts, all right? And a lot of it was for a handshake, okay? F&F was bought 3 to 4 years after our farm. He got 10 years free rent. He knew he was leaving in 10 years. He paid 0 to the town, all right? The 10th year, he dug his trees out and it was gone, all right? You bought Callan's farm on American Way, lifetime rights, okay? Here, we've been paying since day one, all right? So don't tell me about our family and what yous are wrong for doing. We've been paying you, and all these other farmers haven't paid what we've paid. So and I've talked to past mayors. I've talked to past council members, okay? I did my homework as well. So you, as a committee, could do anything you want. You just have to want to do it.
Thank you, Pat. Mary Ellen?
Mary Ellen Principi, 62 Bethany Road. Just have a bunch of questions. Why can't this be grandfathered in? I don't understand that. Okay. The next thing is. Better? Okay. What is considered a temporary? Okay, if 5 years is not temporary, what's temporary? Who's the purchaser officer? Okay. Can everybody in the town see the bids, or is it just you guys? Is there a commission on this going out? And the last thing I have is not about the Palmer Farm. It's about, I just wanted to know if this is the meeting for the property on Homedale Road between Longview and Crawford's Corner?
No.
No? When is that meeting? Do you know?
I'm not sure of the schedule, but that's
'Cause
with
it keeps getting
the
changed.
planning board. We'll get that for you, Mary Ellen, but this
Okay.
has nothing to do with that.
Okay. Do I sit?
No,
for your
you
answer.
can hang out. Mike, you want to answer the grandfather, the 5-year temporary? I don't think 5 years is temporary, but I don't think that's defined. The bids are sealed, they come in, then they're open, correct? And then everybody's aware of all the bids. The bids are out there,
So
so
we
we
can
know
come
who
in
the
and
highest
see
bidder,
them.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a sealed process until they're
Okay.
opened. Sales commission, is that what you're asking?
Is there a commission on
No.
whoever?
For who?
For the bid?
No,
for the bid.
I mean, who would get the commission?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
I don't know of any commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know
Michael, if
enough.
you could handle the grandfathering, please.
No, I mean, I think that's the legal discussion we had earlier, and the statute allows for essentially a grandfathering on a temporary basis of a current tenant when you are in the process of acquiring farmland property. The township was in that process 25 years ago, and as part of that process, it was worked out where there was a lease back that the township took it subject to. So all that occurred as part of that transaction. So we hear these discussions about, handshakes and the like, but as a committee sitting here,
Well,
we're
that's how things were done years
well,
ago.
we're obligated to carry out what's been recorded, and there's a recorded deed, there's a recorded lease, a recorded
Mm-hmm.
contract, township committee action to approve that. We're bound by that, and we're bound by state law.
Okay, and there's nothing that this committee can do to get around that?
Mary
Like you
Ellen,
do for everything else.
Mary Ellen, we don't see any, excuse me, Pat, please. We don't see any opportunity, we're not going to go outside the lines of what's in the law and what's written up in the lease. We're going to uphold that. So to answer your question,
So
the
in
answer is
other
no.
words, you don't care about this family?
I don't know,
That's what's
I don't
going
see
on.
how you read into that. You're asking us if we're going to go outside the law to show favoritism to somebody. If that's your question, the answer is no.
No, it's not. I'm not asking you to go outside the law, but I'm sure, after all these years, there's something you guys can do for the Department family.
We've been discussing this for the last 2+
Give them
years.
the lease.
We don't see anything to be able to do with that. Mr. Santana, yes, please.
Good morning, folks. How are you all? Let's go right. Let me just hold this. Okay, good morning. So,
Excuse me, name and address.
yes, Prakash, I've forgotten my own rules. Prakash Santana, 18 Barbera Drive, Homedale, New Jersey. Okay, Mr. Collins, thank you for your interpretation of the law. I did my due diligence as well, and I'm here to say that you're incorrect. Number one, the law allows a direct lease without bidding. Under NJSA 4812-14.1, the township can offer a new lease directly to the De Palma family without open bidding, as long as the property was previously leased to them and the use is for public benefit, like farming or open space. That's number one. Number two, you stated we cannot use the law because it's late. That is incorrect as well. Just because the current law started before the statute existed doesn't mean we can't use the law today. 12-14.1 is a tool available now to help towns continue the lease with trusted benefits. There is nothing in the law that says it only applies if used at the time of the purchase. One more second. Lastly, for the Green Acres property, the lease predates the township's ownership of this lease and the property, which means the township has to go for a retroactive approval with DEP. That implies the township can then invoke 36-25 13B5 and allow a 5-year extension to the De Palma family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santana.
Right, I have a question.
Go ahead,
I just
Joe.
have a question. Prakash, thank you for your comments. I don't know you. Just for my own education, are you an attorney?
Do I have to state my name and address? No, you're responsible. Okay. I'm not an attorney, but I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night. Thank you.
The woman in the back, please. Yes, please.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. My name is Stephanie Kraus, and I live at 10 Apple Grove Drive in Homedale. It's directly across from De Palma Farms. I don't have a legal background, so I'm not going to speak to the law, but I did want to add some color and speak as a resident of Homedale. My family and I moved here a year ago from Middletown. One of the things that drew us to Homedale was the open spaces and the farmlands and the charm. And this is all very disheartening to hear that we're not backing our farmers. I feel like Homedale was built on the backs of farmers, and we're not backing our farmers today. And it's very upsetting to see what's going on. When I moved to Homedale, I actually noticed the farms on Google Maps, and I did my due diligence to make sure that there wasn't going to be a development built across from my new home. It was important to me as a resident that we didn't have condos and we didn't have traffic. I wanted to raise my family somewhere that my kids could roam free, and that was super important to me. And I saw that it was protected by Green Acres, and that is why I bought a house in Homedale in that development. And it does seem like there's a lot of confusion about the legality here. And I think we're getting lost in that instead of just backing this family who's been here for 100 years. And it does seem like we are using the law to throw the book at them instead of supporting our farmers who live here. It seems like a lot of exceptions are made in the town for things like this. And it's confusing to me that we can't make an exception here and find some way to work together and protect this land so that it doesn't go to another development. That's not what anyone in Homedale wants. I'm sure you guys can agree because you hear from residents all the time. The draw of Homedale is farms, right? So I think we could all agree in this room that we're doing a disservice to the residents if we don't find some way to work with this family who's been here for over 100 years. I'm just very disheartened to hear the conversations going on. And as a new resident, I just implore you to dig deep here and work together to find some resolution. 5 years is not a long time. I feel like that is temporary. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. This committee definitely agrees with you about the open space, procuring it in the farmlands. We've actually acquired several already, and we have more on the agenda. So thank you for that. We definitely agree with you about the farms. We're going to come back to you at the very end. Come on up, please. I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll get to you next.
Hi, I'm Donna Orecki. I live at 47 Van Brackle Road. I have a few questions about the legal process with this. I've never dealt with anything like this before in my life, so I can't even believe that we even have to deal with this whole process. But number one, with the bidding process, can you answer a question? Do the five of you go behind closed doors, you get the bids, you open, like how does that work? Can you please let us know what the legal process is?
Sure. So the township will put together a bid document. It'll set forth, the property, the date that the bids need to be submitted by, all sorts of, technical information. Anyone interested, including yourselves, would submit a sealed bid to the township administrator's office. There would be a specified date and time. The committee's not involved in the process. The purchasing agent is typically the person who would open the bids. Anyone who actually is interested can attend the bid opening, so you can physically be there and see the different bids. And I would imagine in this case, they would tabulate how much the bid amounts are, and then they would report those to whomever's present, and then those bids would be provided to the administrator, the township committee, and myself, so we can review and, and in this case, the highest bid that's responsive and has everything intact would be the one likely to get awarded.
So the people can come, they can review
Absolutely. It's a fully
everything.
transparent process. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I was asking this is because I do know from sitting in at the De Palma Farms that the people of this township do not want this. And so I understand that what you're claiming is that you're doing it on behalf of the people of the township, right? So the 5 years that we all consider very temporary, because he did lose so much of his produce, and it is all documented, and we can, if it goes the legal process, we can, show that that is all documented. If you're going against the will of the very people who you say you're doing this process for, where are we going with this? What has Homedale turned into? I'm sorry, that's just my personal opinion.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, just the township committee's committed to effectuating the will of the people in accordance with the laws. And the deputy mayor mentioned earlier the oath. We have an obligation to follow state law, and the legislature in this case has said that in order to prevent favoritism, there needs to be a bidding process, and we're just trying to adhere to that. And sometimes that puts, my clients as elected officials in a bad position because following the law is not always the popular thing to do. But in this case, that's what their obligation is.
And I would just piggyback on that. None of us want to be here discussing this. Like, if we saw an opportunity to go around this, and that's why we've had discussions with Pat. That's why I came myself. I know 2 years ago we've been discussing about this. So this is unfortunately where we are. We are bound to uphold the law. Kim, did you want to make a comment?
I want to make certain, I'm going to speak for myself and the other committee members can share, but I think we're of the same mindset. Our goal is open space. Our goal is to protect what farms we have left. It is one of the aspects of Homedale that makes it such an amazing place. This isn't about an individual. It isn't about a single entity. It's about how do we go about doing it the right way. That's it. We are not trying to fight against the De Palmas and if there was a loss of revenue, my heart breaks because I know how many people went through hardships as a result of COVID. This is nothing to do about hurting people. It's how do we get to the right answer the right way. And the right answer may very, very well be. We can't sit here and say, no, we're favoring De Palma as opposed to another applicant. We can't do that. But if everyone wants De Palma to be there, if that's what Homedale wants, let's do it the right way so that we don't have future issues. But again, this is not about development. I don't know why the people are coming forward talking about the land being developed. That's nothing that has ever been on our radar. We want that to stay, or I'll speak for myself. I'm sorry. I want it to stay farming. But again, it's, we have to go back to how we are allowed to do things. And if we do it the right way, things should work out. That's all.
The woman behind you?
Good morning. I'm Jill Kaiser. I'm at 13 Apple Grove Drive. My question is, if the farm heads into a legal battle debating these statutes, what happens to the actual land? Does he get like an extension to continue to farm? Is it just held up until we figure out what can happen?
I don't think it's fair for us to begin to speculate whatever lawsuit that they file. I happen to think that given that the committee has already expressed that it's not intending to do a no-bid lease, that the lawsuit would be borderline frivolous, but if they want to file it, that's their prerogative, and we'll review it and comment at that time.
But would it halt the process of the bids going out?
No, I think,
doesn't?
no, we have, if the motion passes today by the Township Committee, we'll be following the bidding process.
And those are just the bids going out. Like, we intend to switch the start date on the lease to January 1st. It shouldn't have been June 30th, right? It's right in the middle of the growing season. We discussed this with him as well. We don't want to harm him with his crops. So people are making it out like we're trying to harm people.
Right.
We're not. We're trying to uphold the law, trying to keep our open space. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Prakash, you already went. It's one-time public comment. Joe?
Joe Schmidt, 26 Apple Grove Drive. I have a unique perspective on this. My family was a farming family from Long Island. We sold our farms, multiple farms, one of them for development. It was a challenge at the time to get development rights. This is 30 years ago, so a similar time frame to this. And we were put out of business by the IRS, to tell you the truth. When my grandfather passed away, the value of the land was worth more than we had to pay the 50% estate tax on land that we had no liquidity out of, right? So that stress killed my father eventually. Farming is a very tough business, right? And families farm, and I commend them, for all this. But this farm was giving very little in terms of lease, right? So it was very nice that you're doing this. Most other farmers on Long Island are selling development rights. They were still the owners of the land. I think it's a big mistake for the town to be in the business of owning a farm when they're not farmers. I will tell you. You don't have water on a property. So I don't know what your bidders are looking for, but are you going to add water systems on the property? You put a large fence on the property for $200,000 when you're getting $6,000 in rents. Where is the payback to us? I think it was very misguided. If you look at Staddle's property in Marlborough, that is not a complicated fence. It's got wires that are very simple, and it's a very expensive option to put. It's a massive fence. I haven't seen anything bigger. You got a fenced-in property with mostly weeds right now, and no water source. So who are your bidders coming to farm land with no water? Because you can't farm really effectively with no water. And what other sources of bid are there? Are you going to accept somebody that's not going to actively farm the land? I mean, they might call it open space, but what is your acceptance of other bidders who are not farmers? And why should we expect you to keep doing a good job when I don't think you represented us well by putting $200,000 into a piece of property that was giving you nothing really in terms of a payback in rent? So who are the bidders that are coming in that are going to make this a value to me? Because I feel like my tax dollars were wasted personally in terms of $200,000. I saw the fence go in. I saw how extensive it was, and I don't think it was necessary for the value of the property that you're putting a fence around, at least for him. So I'm disappointed as a town, as somebody in the town, that it has been ineffectively managed by people who don't farm and don't know the business very well. So I would have to say, you know, however this goes out, you know, your legal process should be followed. If you get challenged and we come up holding the bag because you made the wrong decision, I'm disappointed that I'm going to have to pay for it. That's how I look at it as a taxpayer. So represent me well, because I don't think you've done a great job.
Thank you, Joe. Sir?
And I support you guys, so I'm not trying to...
Joe, I've known you a long time. I understand what you're saying. I wasn't a huge fan of the fence at the time either. Obviously, to cut down on the deer, it made sense. I understand what you're saying about the other option, but I thank you for your comments. 100%. And as far as the bid process, whoever bids, there will be specs to the bid, so they have to follow those specifications. There will not be development.
No, I mean like soccer facilities or other...
No, Joe. No, Joe.
It's always gonna be
No,
a farm.
Joe. No. Joe, I just want to make it clear. No.
Hi, Robert Kravitz, 20 Falcons Ridge Circle, Homedale. Happen to be Sarah Weiser's husband. I understand what you're saying, that you feel there's a statute, you don't have a choice here. I respect that. But there's an exception written into that statute, specifically for this situation, for agriculture and horticultural use. That's a statute too. And to say, oh, it has to be public bidding, there's written into the statute an exception, which is exactly applicable here. So I think I understand what you're saying. Obviously, you don't want to break the law, but the law is written in Mr. De Palma's favor. Second, I heard Mr. Collins say, well, you don't have standing challenges because we're going to do this anyway. We're going to put it up to bid whether the statute requires it or not. That's not what I'm hearing the committee saying. I'm hearing you saying, well, we have to do it, so we don't break the law. Why would you want to do that to this family that's bidding for 100 years? Put it to bid if you don't have to? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you for your comments. I think it was all addressed earlier when Michael spoke as far as the legal process and all that. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from somebody who hasn't spoke? Yes, please, ma'am.
Hi, I was a teacher.
Sorry, you have to come up and give your name and address, please. We have to follow those laws also.
I was a teacher, so I know how to project. Hi, my name is Deborah Tolleth, and I live at 14 Apple Grove. I've lived in California, in Middletown, and then lived in Tokyo for 6 years, Tokyo, Japan, and now am a 30-year resident of Homedale. I bought in Homedale because of the country feel. I bought because of De Palma's farm. I get all my flowers there. I send my friends there. This family represents a farming family. I just went and visited Homedale Park, and I went and listened to the docent talk about the history of, the farm and the lady who lived there for so long, and then all the buildings that you're protecting. And I visited those buildings and appreciated the history here. And De Palma is the history here, and he's asking for 5 years. And your statute has to be, look at these statutes that this gentleman found, please, because we want to see De Palma stay there as long as he possibly can. And I'm glad that I'm going to have farmland, because I bought on Apple Grove also because of De Palma's property. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. The farm will definitely be there, and I personally hope Pat wins the bid. You've already made your public comment. It's not a back and forth conversation session. I'm sorry. There'll be open comments at the end. You can add it at that time. Anybody else who has not spoken yet? Seeing none?
Next is the consent agenda, which would be for resolutions 2025-153 through 2025-160.
Can we get a motion?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Foster?
Yes.
Okay. Resolutions 2025-153 through 2025-160 have been successfully passed. Thank you. Next on the Next on the agenda is Resolutions 2025-161 and 2025-162, which pertain to land preservation.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. This is Resolutions 161 and 162. It looks as though on the agenda itself they're captioned as having the same title, but they're actually different resolutions. 161 is Resolution Authorizing Audit of Township-Owned Properties to Ensure Preservation. And the following Resolution 162 is a resolution authorizing actions to ensure preservation of all De Palma Farm parcels. I'd recommend a motion to adopt both resolutions, and further, as part of a proposed resolution 2025-163, that would be a resolution approving the issuance of a request for bids for the subject property, setting the minimum bid amount in accordance with the local lands and buildings law at $1,000, which is the current amount that was contained in the lease dating back to 2000. So that would serve as the floor, not imposing anything beyond what was previously contained within the lease, and to authorize the township attorney and township administrator to effectuate that bid. So it would be a motion for 161, 162, and 163 as proposed.
Can you make it 164, because I already have 164.
Thank you, Wendy. So 161, 162, and a proposed 164. Is there a motion on that?
Thank you, Michael. Can we get a motion?
I think at this juncture, I would just like to review everything that was discussed here today, take the public comments, review the public comments, talk to Michael a little bit more to make certain I understand the law clearly. I believe I understand it, but at this juncture, I would like to sit back and just give myself a week or two to talk to Michael and review a little bit more.
Is that in relation to 164?
Yes, in relationship to the De Palma property and the open bid, I would love nothing more than to get that started, but I believe we've already agreed to provide the De Palmas until the end of the year, correct?
Just to be clear on that particular issue, and this kind of goes to the efforts to coordinate. In my previous correspondences to the property tenants, we've made clear that we recognize that there are crops and potentially items on the property that are their personal property, and that they would be entitled to whether they were able to continue on the property as the tenant or not, and that we were interested in working with them to allow for them to continue those crops. We realize it's a seasonal industry that they're in, so based upon the legal considerations around the bidding, the hope was to coordinate with them so that they're not impacted with what's going on the remainder of this year. I don't make any illusion that anybody's going to be off the property on July 1st, just given the nature of where we are from a timing standpoint. And under New Jersey law, if a party is on a lease and enters into a holdover, the lease terms on holdover would govern, and we would work with them on that. But so I don't see any particular issue if we don't adopt this motion at this meeting, and I'm happy to discuss with the committee. But I think that the process would be as we've discussed today.
So we'll table 164. Can we get a motion on 161 and 162?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Improviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Foster?
Yes.
Okay. Resolutions 2025-161 and 2025-162 have been successfully passed. Thank you. Next up is the budget hearing for the 2025 proposed budget for Homedale Township.
Thank you, Wendy. Can we get a motion? Oh, actually, sorry, public hearing. Wayne, would you like to make any comments before we open up to the public? Do you have anything you'd like to say?
It's a good budget. I'm a CFO in a few other towns. I don't get the pleasure of saying this often. It's a good budget. The tax levy is flat, and because overall valuations in the towns increase, that means our tax rate decreased. So anybody who has the same valuation this year as they did last year is going to be paying less in their municipal taxes.
Thank you for that, Wayne. Eric, would you like to make some comments? Yeah, come on up, please.
And just as a liaison, this is our finance committee chair, so they often, well, they always provide insight and opinion on the budget and offer their guidance.
Thank you. So Eric Silvergold, 9 Powderhorn Court, and I'm here today to represent the Finance Committee. So I'd like to read a brief statement that we put together. So the Finance Advisory Committee has reviewed the township's proposed municipal budget, and we'd like to share some of our key insights. Entering 2025, Homedale's financial position is as strong as it's ever been. Our surplus reached a record high, our revenues continue to grow, and key financial indicators show steady improvement, which is reinforcing our AAA bond rating. So this year, township spending is budgeted at $32.4 million. That's a 6.2% increase. And it's largely due to higher salaries for public safety and public works, rising insurance costs, and increased state-mandated pension contributions. On the positive side, the debt service costs are expected to actually decline this year by 14%. Pilot revenues, a favorite topic, totaled $7.6 million last year. And that helped to drive our revenue growth and our surplus stability. And thanks to our strong financial position, Homedale is going to be able to keep a flat municipal tax levy for the 4th consecutive year. However, it is important to point out that rising school district and county taxes will push total property tax bills up by about $720, with nearly all of the increase coming from the school district and county taxes. So that's contrary to some things that might have been said. While municipal taxes remain flat, though, spending continues to outpace inflation. And the Finance Committee does believe that the township must focus not only on keeping taxes flat, but on slowing future spending. I think that statement's true at the municipal, county, state, and federal level. Stop spending so much. As Homedale plans for the future, changing demographics will impact our budgets and our resource allocations. Homedale's population is undergoing a major transition right now. Our median age is 48, and we're aging more rapidly than surrounding areas. Since 2000, children and teens under 20 have dropped from 31% to 25% of our population, while seniors 65 and older have risen from 12% to 21%. And to put that in context in terms of bodies, that means 540 fewer children and 1,700 more seniors. Think about that for a minute. Not surprisingly, our aging population has led to a 23% decline in Homedale's K-12 school enrollment, with 832 fewer students since peaking in 2003. And like communities nationwide, we're seeing lower birth rates, longer life expectancies, and an aging baby boomer generation drive these demographic changes. But Homedale is experiencing these shifts more rapidly than most. So these demographic changes will continue for decades, shaping Homedale's future finances and resource allocations. And we urge the Township Committee to integrate these demographic trends into future budgets and capital plans, ensuring that Homedale meets the evolving needs of all of our residents. That's all I have, and I'd just like to say the Finance Committee would like to thank Mayor Foster, Committeeman Prevenuto, and in his absence, CFO Bill Antonides, for all their continued support for everything we do at the Finance Committee.
Eric, thank you for all you do for town. Really appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have any public comments on the budget? Mr. Santana?
First question, can I combine two questions, one on the budget and De Palma Farm, so that I don't have to keep coming back?
This is the budget hearing.
Okay, budget. Right. I applaud the committee for posting, do I have to state my name and address first? All right. Prakash Santana, 18 Barbera Drive, Homedale. I applaud the committee for stating a capital plan budget for 7 years, $49 million, whatever it is. But I have not seen anything related to coordinating your capital plan budget with the Homedale schools, for the simple reason 100% of our tax increases are related to the schools, and if you do not coordinate your capital plan with the schools, we are likely to keep seeing increases in our taxes, regardless of how long you can, keep the township portion of the taxes flat. It does not matter to the residents. taxes will keep increasing if you do not coordinate your capital plan with the Board of Ed. Thank you.
I actually have a question with that. When you served, why didn't you ever talk to the Board of Education?
I did want to. And
wanted
I did,
to?
Yes, I did ask Attorney Mike Collins if I could go talk to the Board of Ed, and he said there are two different political bodies, and I am not allowed to do that.
No.
That's it. I'm
hold
answering
on.
your question.
No. And I'm giving you a rebuttal. There is a Board of Education liaison position on this dais, whether you were the liaison or
I
not.
asked, it was Kathy Weber at that time.
Okay.
And I passed that information to Kathy Weber to go talk to them, and she claimed she
The
did.
fact of the matter is, you did nothing for the schools while you served here.
That's
This
not-
is the first governing body
That-
that's done anything significant
So
for the
if you-
school system since it got here. Your points are disingenuous because now you suddenly care. You never cared before, and you never did anything about it.
Mr. Improviduto, with due respect to you, we passed the first shared services agreement in the history of Homedale. Let me tell you.
And who forced it? It was me.
Let me finish first. You have to respect me to finish first. I understand that? Please respect my position right here and let me finish.
I'll let you finish, and then I'm going to make you look foolish.
All right. First, in the history of Homedale, we passed the first shared services agreement. Your SLEOs and the SLEO 3 agreement was hatched here by myself, Kathy Weber, and Improviduto for a 5-year term, going up to 50% sharing with the Homedale schools. First shared service agreement. Number 2, a shared services agreement is not simply a handout. I hope you understand that. Mr. Eric, I hope you understand that as well. A shared services agreement is supposed to be leveraging economies of scale to increase our purchasing power, to, at the end of the day, reduce our expenses. That has not been done under this township. Thank you.
So, when the township decided to provide 10% of the cost for the SLEOs, that came at my urging as a candidate when I articulated many times over, Homedale Township should be paying for the cost of school security. It wasn't until you left this governing body before your term was over and DJ Lucarelli took over that we absorbed the entire cost of of school security. That's number one. Number two, we worked with the school district to help make improvements all across the Board of Education properties. And number three, we're doing so further this year. So I go back to my original point. You would have done nothing had the issue not been raised publicly, and it was, and you did the bare minimum. Number two, this governing body under DJ and then under myself and now under Mayor Foster has done more than anybody ever has. So your encouragement is disingenuous. Your positions are often unfounded in fact and in data. And we know this, and it's documented.
Pat, on the budget? Mary Ellen, on the budget? Okay. Pat, on the budget?
Patrick Trisquita, 56 Line Road. I fully support the budget. I think it's an excellent budget that the committee put together. I want to make note of the Bellworks pilot is continuing to soar. Last year it brought in $7.5 million. I think it's going to bring in over $8 million to the town. I think it was a great thing that Homedale did, 30-year pilot, and the Bellworks building is now a national icon. The third season of Severance is coming up at the building, and it's going to increase the pilot even more. So with that, Homedale will have significant revenues to do a lot of things, to do things for open space, to do things for the schools, to do things for infrastructure, and I think continue to do the good work that you've done in the now and in the past for all of Homedale. And I think the budget, I fully support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Any other comments on the budget? On the budget. Come on up, Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen Principi, 62 Bethany Road. I just want to say thank you for the budget. However, as a senior, I don't like my taxes going up. I don't care whether it's you guys or the school board, whoever, my taxes are still going up. So you can say all you want about you're not raising taxes, but if our liaison to the school board maybe should get together and try to figure something out. And as far as speaking up here, that was very rude of you, Mr. Improviduto. I know you for a long time, and I think you owe him an apology.
Mrs. Principi,
Thank
I
you.
take it very, and I appreciate your statement.
care.
And you know, I respect you and your opinion. I hear you. I take it very personally when someone uses our school district as a for political gain, and Mr. Santana has done that repeatedly.
What did you just do? What did you do?
No. I stated facts. By
All
the
right,
way,
we're
it
just,
wasn't the first shared services agreement. I have that on record. We can find it and we'll make that public record. So there's been a number of misstatements and there's been a number of efforts to use our school district for political gain. That is
Thank you.
it is
Thank
as
you for admitting that.
no for admitting it.
Just gave
We're
them
correct.
$500,000.
Why that's not political
That
gain.
that is false. The same way the township is coming out for the De Palmas, the township came out in force to us to help the Board of Ed preserve the busing. And we responded to the town the same way we just pushed this motion off to reconsider for the De Palmas. So that's not true. That's not a bailout. The town asked us to do it. We had the means to do it, and we did it because people wanted us to do it. We did the right.
Nothing political about it. We're trying to support
I'm
our
the board of liaison.
Surplus, why can't you help them more?
I
you
am the
have
board of
surplus.
liaison to the Board of Ed.
Okay.
We talk. We do coordinate. We chat about ways we can help each other. It's the kind of communication that didn't exist when Prakash Santana was on this board. I could tell you that.
Mary Ellen, it did not exist. I was on the Board of Ed at the time. Please don't cut. You weren't on the board. I was on the board. I was on the Board of Education. I'm aware of everything that happened. But thank you for your comments on the budget. Any other comments on the budget? Seeing none, let's move along.
So next would be a motion for Resolution 2025-163, which is the
Can we
motion
get a
to
motion?
adopt the resolution.
Move.
Second.
Mr. Improviduto?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Foster?
Yes.
Okay, the resolution to adopt the 2025 budget has been successfully passed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wendy. So we're moving along to departments. Mr. Chibini.
I have a few things tonight. First off, I always do this. Sorry. First off, want to talk a little bit about the Crawford's Corner project that's beginning. Project's planned to begin next week. We actually met yesterday with all the stakeholders. And there's some misinformation out there. The road will not be closed at any point in time. They will be operating possibly with lane closures, but there will be police on site to assist everybody to get through. Due to the size and scope of the project and weather permitting, the targeted date for completion would be August 29th. And Brian O'Malley, our Township Public Information Officer, he will be getting out as much information as possible as we get it. If things change, if times change, if there are detours that have to come in, we will let everybody know. On the Township website, last month we had some concerns over the JCPL improvement project. JCPL is conducting a project where they're putting in new poles. I contacted Frank Luna is no longer with JCP&L, so I contacted Jose Ortiz, who's our new government rep. He, after about a week or so, I finally got him to put together a format for the public to actually read. It is under our government tab, public notices. If anybody else, if you can't get it, just let me know. I can get a copy out to you. And it basically explains the job they're doing and when the end date is, which is sometime in 2026. Last week, I met with the engineers from T&M and representatives from Hazlitt about the Bethany Road project. I don't know if everybody realizes that we did get a grant for $250,000 to repave that road. Hazlitt got the same $250,000 grant. So the plan is to have it out to bid sometime in early September. In this, it'll be repaving from the Parkway Bridge through the train tracks. And the sidewalks will have ADA improvements as required under the law. And then finally, I was in attendance at a meeting right after this one, right after the one I just had with D&M about Bethany Road. I went into a meeting with DEP and state representatives and representatives from Hazlet and Union Beach in reference to our stormwater infrastructure. As we all know, stormwater infrastructure is starting to fail in a lot of towns, and as this is a state problem, we believe it's a state problem, so we thought we would get a meeting with DEP to get some answers. We're trying to overcome some of the red tape. We have to go through a lot to get permits when we want to make repairs. I didn't come away with a warm and fuzzy feeling from them. I felt like they were just waiting for us to speak and then we'll get back to you type of attitude. But we're going to stick with trying to work with them. I'm hoping that they'll be a little more responsive. Right now, I have an emergency DEP permit that still hasn't been approved. So hopefully by the end of the week, they said they'd have it. So hopefully by the end of today, because I haven't seen it yet. So, but
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Chris. We're definitely not holding our breath with the DEP. Michael, any comments?
No update. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Michael. Are you standing in for Ed this morning? Do you have any comments? No? Oh, I thought you were standing in for the engineer. So the engineer is not with us today, so there won't be any engineering comments. Joe, how about you kick us off, man?
It's a long one today, Mayor. All right. Starting with the Homedale Library, summer reading programs have started. It's a reminder that the summer reading program began on June 1st. Parents can visit the library's website at monmouthcountylib.beanstack.org. We'll post that on the website to create an account and track their child's books. If you created an account last summer, you do not need to create another one. Children's, teens, and adults will be eligible for rewards and other incentives based on meeting their reading goals. The display case is open and available for local groups. The library currently has space available in its display case at the front of the library. Local cultural or civic groups who are interested in displaying items, historical artifacts, or books in the display case can reach out to Trish or Mary at the library reference desk for more info. Just to touch on that, I'm the liaison to the library. We had a great veterans meeting. I'll get to that later, but we've been talking about getting some things related to Homedale that we can display at the library. So if anyone has any Homedale memorabilia speaking to the history of the township that they'd like to donate temporarily for a month to the library that we could display, that would be great. We have an upcoming library program for kids. Ayala, the therapy dog, will be returning to the library this Monday, June 16th from 4 to 5 for the Read to a Dog program. Children's grades K and up are welcome along with parents and or caregivers. From the Board of Ed, student entrepreneurs raised over $8K for a Make-A-Wish New Jersey program. This spring, over 100 fourth grade students at Indian Hill High School participated in the Elementary Entrepreneurs Club, raising an impressive $8,245.25 for Make-A-Wish New Jersey. Originally capped at 25 students, the club quickly expanded due to overwhelming interest, ultimately including 102 participants. Divided into two groups, the students engage in all aspects of launching a small business, from idea development and branding to marketing and sales. The program culminated in a successful market day at Bellworks, where students sold their products and donated all proceeds to Make-A-Wish New Jersey. Congratulations to our young entrepreneurs. You made Homedale proud. Homedale students excel in patient care technician program. The first cohort of patient care technician students at Homedale High, led by Mrs. Shannon Davis, achieved outstanding results. On May 20th, 9 out of our 10 students passed the National Health Career Association exam, which is a 90% pass rate, which is well above the national average. Homedale High is the first New Jersey high school with students taking this exam, showcasing our commitment to innovate, career-focused education. Congratulations to our students on earning this nationally recognized certification and preparing for impactful healthcare careers. Village School received the 2025 Promising Practice Award. Back in December, Village School students, led by Jamie Kenny, held the 20th annual Giving Tree program. This beloved program supports families in need during the holiday season by selecting and purchasing holiday gifts for children in need. In partnership with Family and Children's Services in West Long Branch, our Village School students collected over 2,000 gifts. This led the organization Character.org to award our students with the 2025 Promising Practice Award for their efforts. Homedale student musician played at Carnegie Hall. Indian Hill 5th grader Muchin Zhao made his Carnegie Hill debut earlier this semester, performing Kohler's Toccata. We applaud Muchin for his talent, determination, and hard work, which inspire the rest of our school community. From the Veterans Committee, the next Veterans Coffee and Conversations will be held on Thursday, June 26th at 10:30 a.m. at the Senior Community Center. The last event was great. We had over 19 Homedale veterans attend that one. I was able to make it. It was a great event. All veterans and Gold Star family members are invited to attend this informal get-together to socialize and enjoy coffees, bagels, and donuts provided by the Township. For more information or to RSVP, please contact the Recreation Office. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Good stuff, Joe. Thank you. Mr. Impreveduto?
Thank you, Mayor. From the Homedale Police Department, the nice weather means that more adults and children will be out on the roadways. The Homedale Police Department will be enforcing laws regarding e-bikes, scooters, mopeds, bicycles, and other motorized bikes or recreational vehicles. Information about the laws and regulations governing these types of vehicles will be posted to the Homedale Police website and social media. We ask that residents please familiarize yourselves and your children with the laws of the road. These laws are for everyone's safety. Drivers should also be aware of a DWI checkpoint set for Monmouth County tonight, Friday, June 13th, from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. During the checkpoint, all southbound vehicles on Route 35 will be diverted into the Dearborn Market parking lot, where all drivers will be screened for their sobriety. Please enjoy your weekends safely and utilize designated drivers, ride shares, or taxi services to ensure that everyone gets home in one piece. From the Homedale Fire Department, there were 47 calls for service in the month of May, and there have been 247 calls for service year to date. On Friday, June 9th, Alice Shagalova, Jake Zabel, and Michael McCormick, all Homedale residents, graduated from the Monmouth County Fire Academy and are now certified firefighters. The academy consisted of 240 hours of rigorous training over the past few months. Last month, several Homedale firefighters completed a 48-hour Fire Officer 1 class. The class is designed to equip aspiring officers with the necessary leadership and tactical skills to effectively manage fireground operations. With July 4th drawing near, the Homedale Fire Department would like to remind residents to refrain from using fireworks or use them safely. In 2022, fireworks were responsible for over 31,000 fires, including 3,500 structure fires, 887 vehicle fires, and over 26,000 outside fires. Emergency rooms treated over 10,000 fireworks-related injuries. Important safety tips: never allow children to handle fireworks. Anyone using fireworks should use eye protection. Never hold lit fireworks in your hands. Never light fireworks indoors. Never point fireworks at another person. On Thursday, July 10th, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., Texas Roadhouse will be hosting a rib eating contest between the Homedale Fire Department and Homedale Police Department. Please come out and support us by having dinner and watching the event. Texas Roadhouse will be donating 15% of total sales to the fire and police departments. You can check social media for details. Tomorrow's large item drop-off event has been rescheduled. As reported earlier in the spring, the large item drop-off event, originally scheduled for tomorrow, June 14th, has been rescheduled for next Saturday, June 21st, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event will be held in the Bellworks parking lot number 4. And last but not least, DPW is midway through its June brush collection schedule with sections C and D remaining. There will be no brush collection during the months of July and August, so please do not place brush piles at the edge of your property or in the street. The next and final round of brush collection for 2025 will be in September. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Rock, and congrats to Chief Fernando building more firefighters. That's great news. Thank you to them for signing up with us. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Community Development Department, there's nothing new to report this meeting. The Homedale 250th Committee, they will be holding their kickoff event Saturday, June 21st at 11:15 at the Homedale Community Church on Main Street. We had a meeting last week and came up with a bunch of plans for our upcoming year, and at that event, those plans will be shared. The event will begin with a small ceremony in the church's adjacent cemetery, followed by a short reception inside the church's event space. All residents are invited and encouraged to attend. As part of celebrating our country's anniversary, we are going to be sharing each month a fun fact about Homedale and our role with the American Revolution. This month's fun fact is Homedale Hornet's Nest and Smocks Farm. Captain Barnes Smocks Farm in Homedale, now the site of Cross Farm Park, served as a crucial gathering point for the Middletown and Homedale Patriots during the Revolutionary War. Smock kept a special type of cannon on his property called a 4-pounder, which acted as a signal. The cannon's boom alerted local Patriot militia to British movements in the area and prompted them to rendezvous at Ruckman's Hill. This area, known as the Hornet's Nest, was where Patriots regularly ambushed British soldiers with their sharp bayonets, a tactic so effective it led to their Hornets nickname. To read the full fact about Smock Farm and the origin of the Homedale Hornets, you can check out the Homedale Facebook page. Our Homedale Green Team, some updates. The Green Team continues to work on community energy planning with the CEP team. We met recently with the Homedale School District to plan for a renewed anti-idling campaign. The team worked with Village School to plant more native plants in the school's courtyard. And our next meeting is going to be Monday, June 14th. It is open to the public, so please feel free to join us. And nothing new with the Heritage Committee. We met to continue making our plans for Heritage Day in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Joe, you should see if you could track down that cannon. That'd be pretty cool to have that at the library.
Be there on the 21st. I'll see what I can do.
A couple of announcements on my side. So, Pat, you'll appreciate this one. So, in regards to Robert Wilson Park, next week, our environmental management consultant will be conducting their initial hazmat building inspections up at the Robert Wilson Park. The team will be evaluating all indoor spaces within the park property. So, some movement there. It's going to go slow. It's probably going to continue to go slow because it's a state process, but it's moving forward. Last week, I was proud to join our first responders from the police and the fire department for the annual torch run for the Special Olympics. Over the weekend, I also volunteered over at TCNJ. I've been doing that since 2009. It's an incredible group. We had over 1,000 athletes at the track, and then they have all the other facilities. It's a great group. I'm involved with the winter and summer games. If anybody's looking for volunteer opportunities, I highly, highly recommend it. The First Aid Squad hosted a helicopter landing zone safety training class with Hackensack Meridian Health at Bell Works last month and had over 100 attendees from Homedale and the surrounding towns. The new First Aid Squad website has launched, including an online application feature. We're excited to say that we've accepted several new members and are always looking for more. Please reach out if you have interest in becoming a volunteer. The partnership with MedStar is working extremely well. Our volunteers are still responding overnights and weekends as well as several days each week. MedStar has helped the squad on days when our volunteers are stretched thin and during times like yesterday evening where we were dispatched to 4 simultaneous emergencies around town. MedStar handled one incident and our crew responded to the other 3. They have responded to 653, this is our team, has responded to 653 calls for service so far in 2025, which is still on track for the same annual number of calls, even with the MedStar assistance. So congrats to our team. They're still putting in their time and growing, which is awesome news. Some recent events. Kim and I were able to attend the ribbon cutting to officially open the Bayshore Greek Festival at Kimesis Theotako Greek Orthodox Church. Excellent event over there, very well attended. They had good weather for most of the time. Sunday got a little thin, but there was still packed over there as I dropped my daughter off. I, along with the rest of the Township Committee, were also able to tour the Homedale Library last week and hear all about the wonderful things the library team are doing from Trish Schrodo, the branch manager. Thank you for coordinating that, Joe. And then earlier, Joe also mentioned the Entrepreneur Day at Bell Works. I stopped over there myself and met up with Superintendent Cascone. I tell you, what a great event, seeing the number of kids and what they were selling, their wares that they all created. It was an awesome event. I believe it was the first time, and I hope they continue that. And that is all I have on my side. We will open it up for public comment. Would you like to? Yes, please. Give me 1 second. We're just going to let Wendy, but hang out right there. Wendy's just going to read her verbiage.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a public comment period for public comment on any governmental issue of public concern. In accordance with Resolution 2022-17, public commenters are asked to raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the mayor before coming forward and making public comments. Commenters are asked to state their full names and address before commenting. Public commenters are limited to 1 comment, not to exceed 3 minutes. Comments should be directed to the mayor and the Township Committee. If appropriate, the mayor may direct and recognize a staff, employee, or professional to respond to comments either at this meeting or in writing after this meeting.
Sarah Beiser.
Thank you, Wendy.
Sarah Beiser, Patrick DePalma's attorney and a resident of Homedale at Falcons Ridge for about 36 years. So I want to start with the Wilmerite Mall. I don't know whether anyone in the Township Committee knows what the Wilmerite Mall is. Probably some people here remember the Wilmerite Mall. It was supposed to be a mall that was put, I believe, on the Alaco property about 30 years ago. It was going to be, I think, a 1 million square foot mall. I stood before this Township Committee when I led the fight against that mall. And the Township Committee told me that my efforts were against the law, that the law didn't support me, and that there was no way they could stop a mall. There is no mall in Homedale today. So I'd like to ask how many of you have actually read NJSA 40A:12-14.1. I'm going to assume, I hope that you have all read it. But for the purposes of this meeting, because I think the people behind me haven't read it, I'm going to read this into the record. And I'm going to stress that the sole purpose of this statute is to retain agricultural or horticultural use based upon a prior lease of the property. So the statute is entitled, and I'll read it quickly because I think I've got 3 minutes. Leasing of county or municipal real property for agricultural, horticultural use. Are you ready?
Yeah, I've already read it, but please continue.
I don't want you to laugh while I'm speaking.
We're talking about something else, but please.
I'm sure you are. Whenever a county or municipality acquires real property that, immediately prior to acquisition, was leased from the prior owner by a private person for agricultural, horticultural use, and the county or municipality determines that until such time as the real property is needed for public use, the temporary continuance of the private agricultural or horticultural use would not compromise that public use. It may lease the real property to the prior leasee, Patrick, for agricultural, horticultural use, again, what Patrick is doing, for such period, consideration, and other terms as shall be mutually agreed upon. Now, I heard you say today that even if the statute didn't require rebidding, that you would do that anyway. And it appears to me that you are totally disregarding a New Jersey state statute that wants to encourage agricultural, horticultural use to someone who was a prior lease. And my final statement today is that someone, one of you, told Prakash that I'm going to make you look foolish. And that was put on the record. I don't think that's the appropriate behavior of someone on the Township Committee to say to a resident of this town or of any town.
I appreciate that, and I'd like to respond to that quickly. I did say that comment, and I said that comment because the individual in question has continuously, publicly, not only misrepresented the work of this township, misrepresented our financial standing, misrepresented his role in what's gone on here, but also, as I've said earlier, tried to use our schools for political gain. And that there are few things that will cause me to react emotionally to any circumstance. That's one of them. Our school district is revered in this state. Our school district is the lifeblood of our town. And for someone to ignore it and then try to use it to get elected and then try to accuse this governing body of not doing enough is something that needs to be challenged publicly. And that's... And I actually have a question, if you don't mind. I think, if I'm not mistaken...
Well, hold on,
yeah.
just through the mayor, public comment, you have 3 minutes. If the committee wants to make comments of their own, that's fine, but this isn't a back and forth. We don't want that.
I'm good.
All right. Pat?
Patrick Trisquita, 56 Line Road. First of all, I'd like to commend the committee for all of their work in open space for the past several years. It's been phenomenal. I'm glad to see Wilson Park. We're going to get an archaeologist look at that place. Good. It is very historical, and yes, there's a lot of wires underneath the ground. They're all dead, but and used long time ago, 60 years ago. I do have a question. First, I commend the resolution to make a list of our open spaces. And in anticipation of that, I met with Chris last week to put in the same suggestion that I did on the reorganization meeting, was to identify lots along Line Road, the 77 acres of protected woodlands, to be part of our inventory and part to get protected. The 77 acres, it's adjacent to a new Monmouth County park called Pleasant Valley Park, and hopefully that will take into your plans for continuing to preserve open spaces. Final question is, has the eminent domain filing for the Pappas Farm taken place, or my question is, what's the status of the eminent domain? That is a very important parcel of 48 acres on Beer Streets to get part of Homedale's open space and acquiring that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Michael, any update on that?
Yeah, that'll be filed next week. We just got the title report back, which we need to make sure that we're naming all interested parties. So the complaint's in the process of being drafted.
Come on up, Mr. Santana.
Prakash Santana, 18 Barbera Drive, Homedale, New Jersey. I served on the committee before the four of you did. And no matter how irate the resident was, it behooves every one of you up there not to be rude and imbecilic, which is exactly what we witnessed today. Now, regarding De Palma Farm, you've endlessly stated that Homedale Township cannot show favoritism. According to this expert, who shall go nameless, this isn't about favoritism. It's about following a law that was written specifically to prevent needless disruption to long-standing beneficial leases. Refusing to consider that option is not just following the law, it's actually ignoring the law that gives the governing body discretion to act in public's best interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santana. Come on up, Jenny. We'll get to you guys right after Jenny.
Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. This is a comment that should be laughed at, because it will certainly add a note of levity to a lot of serious business we've been hearing this morning. For a long time, we've been hearing Jay Anello talk about JCPL and the power poles. And I want to tell you that on or about April 21st, shall we say, JCP&L came by our house, and at the end of our driveway there's a transformer. And unbeknownst to us, there seemed to be something the matter with the transformer, because the light pole that was a few feet away from it was working perfectly. But they dug a big hole, and they moved a whole bunch of rocks that belonged to our neighbors, and the big hole was about 2 feet deep, and they put a construction fence around it, and they went away. But apparently, a little shortly thereafter, they came by and dug a hole, a ditch, all along our frontage, and went to the next light pole that was working perfectly. And they stuck a wire up on the pole and put some cables up there and went away. And they went away. And they went away. And the light poles kept working. And one time, some JCP&L guy came by, and he looked at it, and we happened to be bringing our garbage can in, as is the law in this town. And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, they're doing something." I said, "Well, can't you do something about it?" He said, "Well, I'm in a different union. I can't touch it." Okay, fine. And he went away. On Wednesday, no, wait a minute, this is Friday. On Wednesday, a great big huge JCP&L truck came past the driveway. And I went out and said, "Okay, so what's up?" He said, "Well, I'm going to fix this." And I said, "Well, glory be. And he took down the construction fence, filled up the hole, and went on his way. Now, I will say that when they got through digging up our lawn, they filled it up and they put grass seed where they dug it up. And miraculously, despite all of our efforts, that grass seed grew beautifully. We've got the best grass growing in that particular hunk of the front of our lawn than we've had in years. Anyway, so they apparently fixed the perfectly functioning light posts and they went away. About 2 hours later, there was another white truck further down where our property is adjacent to township property. This is just going to kill you in short. And I thought it was JCPL again. No, it was a Homedale DPW truck. What in the world's he doing? Well, in front of the power pole, there's a wooden guardrail that's been there 40 years. And one of the 8-foot timbers had rotted away and was just lying on the ground. I went up and I talked to this man, and his name is Dan, and he works for the DPW, and he is the fence specialist. I did not know the town had a fence specialist. And within 2 hours, he fixed this fence, the guardrail, that had been fallen down for about 6 weeks or more. And he said he just drove by 2 hours before and he noticed it was broken. He thought, ha-ha, it needs fixing. He came and he talked to Jeff Smith and maybe Chris, who's laughing now. And they said, we have the 8x8 timber to fix the guardrail. And can I do it? And by George, he came back and he fixed the guardrail. And don't ever tell me that the DPW, if it gets into their brain to fix something, won't do it immediately. So that was really lovely, but I still have no idea why 241 other street lamps are still not working.
Mr. Yanello would be proud of you, Jenny. We're as Chris mentioned earlier, we have a new representative at JCP&L. We've had some discussions with him. We will continue to, so we'll definitely keep you updated.
Still really spastic all over the place.
You said that, Jenny, not me. Go ahead, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Woman in white.
Hello, Angela Casello, 10 Ridge Hill Way. My comment is it's in response to a comment that Mr. Santana brought up earlier during his public comment. I had, at the time when Mr. Santana was deputy mayor, I had come up here and had given a comment about an issue, the concern that I had in the town at the time. And I was rudely told to go and take a seat by Mr. Bontempo at the time after he did not agree with the opinion that I had said. And so as such, I do think it is a false statement for Mr. Santana to say that the emotions do not get a hold of the committeemen, especially during the time period when Mr. Bontempo and Mr. Santana sat up there. And also I did want to thank actually Mr. Impreviduto. At that same, later on at another meeting, I did bring up a separate concern about a traffic pattern on Van Schoik Road near Williams Way. And since then, there has been change to the traffic pattern, and hopefully I'm seeing some less accidents that have occurred. So thank you for that, because I know you and I had discussed that at that town meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, and good luck with everything. Any other public comments? Come on up, Joe.
Joe Schmidt, 26 Apple Grove Drive. I have two quick things. One, I hope you get whatever the dispute on this legal ruling, that it doesn't hurt the taxpayers, so that it creates some adverse outcome for the town. I'd prefer that that not be the case. So I definitely would like you to make sure you get that right. Second, our street, our neighborhood has been repaved by the county 2 different times. Yet Apple Grove Drive has been unpaved for, how do we get the completion of, all the rest of the neighborhood is at the same age. How does that one last street not get done? And how do we ask for it to get done?
So
It seems illogical, after all the troubles that they went through, that they left one little bit of the whole community, and the busiest road on the whole street in the whole community.
So Joe, we actually just made a change to how we're reviewing the roads going forward. So we are in the middle of that process. So we'll probably have an update. What are we thinking? Maybe by the end of the summer? Sooner? Okay. So perfect. So Joe, we're definitely aware of what you're speaking about and
Just
trying to move on
group
it.
this whole community together, because it makes no sense to leave an outlier when it's the busiest one everyone counts on, really. Yeah. All right. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to continue in executive session to continue discussion of the De Palma property as well as Vonage and affordable housing. We will reserve the right to return to public session for potential formal action.